Word. Okay. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you being here. I know some of you have analytics teams, some of you are analytic expert like Atik, and some of you might not have anybody at all. And so, the purpose really of this week is for one, for you to understand how to use GA4 in a way that is not typically used, frankly. GA4 is very different. Some of you will already know what we hope that you'll come away with this week is an enlightenment for how to use it because it is much more robust than what you're used to in GA3 and also how to pitch it to your customers. I think some of you, and we'll see this as the days progress, but a lot of companies have not implemented it correctly. And I think that there is by and large a big misunderstanding about how GA works, what how to use it optimally, and what is the vision for what we're going to do with it in the AI era. So that is what it's intended to do. So, some of this might be a little bit of review, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, we're just going to talk about the differences between GA3 and GA4. Now, the struggle is real to compete with agencies out there in general. And so I think you'll find that in this world where there's not a lot of talent to work on it, being a differentiator at your agency because you offer GA4 services is a real opportunity. In addition, sometimes you find that agencies subcontract to other agencies where they're just like, you know what, that's just not our focus. We're performance marketing. We're not really going to move into analytics and we have no desire to. So you can often subcontract to even a bigger agency as another opportunity. So again, all the knowledge you need to understand the complexities of GA4 and how to sell in the promise of it and have a vision for how to use it. So let's set a little context about the market. Um, a lot of you're from agencies, so you've seen this slide. Over 15 years in my career, we went from like 100 to 10,000 technologies that house different types of customer data. And the majority of it is wasted because it takes a data analyst to mine that insight. And the problem is that there is not enough people out there. Right now, there's a $200 billion gap in the analytics talent market. That means the amount of salary that is available for nobody to fill the seat. And this is where agencies have an opportunity to fill in. In addition, the need for analysts is actually outpacing the need for engineering. And so this is just getting like even more of a like critically important for companies out there, large and small. But the people who suffer the most are smaller companies. So if 72% of roles are filled at the enterprise level, meaning if a 30% gap is there at the enterprise level, there is nobody to work on anyone else. And GA4 has just further complicated this um, because there's nobody to work on it. There's nobody to really understand and fully educate what Google Analytics for is about. So what you're seeing here is like I've been actually using built with data to track by country how many companies have migrated fully to GA4. Now you can see from February and March and May, this was pretty dismal. Around 30% in the US, less than 25% globally had migrated. Well, now you can see that US is 82% of companies have migrated. That might seem good, but let's think about this. There are 80 million websites that had GA4 on it. So, 20% of those companies have not migrated over in the United States. So, the other thing to consider is that this is just the GA4 migration of the free product. Everybody who's on Google Analytics 360, which started at $100,000 in annual subscription, has until July 2024. So they're thinking about their migrations starting now. So this is all just to say that the opportunity to help these companies is so great and also to use the opportunity as an agency growth for your team. So in these 4 days, well, our intention is to help you fill that $200 billion talent gap. You're going to gain insights from my 15 years of experience. We're going to master the intricacies of GA4, differentiating good from bad implementations. So, yes, we are going to get into data architecture and down and dirty with it and spend almost 2 days, because that is the critical piece where you need to be conversant in, to sell it to your clients. By the way, spotting good and bad implementations is an excellent lead gen strategy for agencies. Then we're going to take a look at some Looker Studio dashboards, which is actually where most of the analysis can be done. You will find, we'll touch on the UI, but you'll find that it is very limited in what it can do. There's some good quick hit questions that you could answer in there, but the dashboard in Looker Studio is the best way to conduct research. I'll teach you how to pitch analytic services. I'll show you like who is buying at what revenue, annual revenue mark, are buying at the highest ticket item, so you could focus your agency on the actual buyers. And then we'll finally get into what is really the money maker, which is conversion rate optimization. So, you're building these websites for your customers, you're helping to lead their strategy, but all of the customer behavioral insights that we're collecting in Google Analytics for is basically worth a hill of beans unless you're actually going in to test. So the potential of GA4 in this AI era, this is what we're going to do: an hour a day, beginning with implementation. And if you do all of these things, clean the data, tell clients like where they can optimize, showing them what their daily dashboard data looks like, and then moving into conversion rate optimization and user experience on their sites, you're going to get to metrics that look like this. And no kidding, like these are real metrics that I achieved in a 3 to 6 month time period using all of these four tactics: enrichment of the data, testing of the website, increasing the conversion rate, which essentially means like within a 3 to 6 month time period, I'm returning the ROI to my customer, and they're not looking at me as a cost center like media anymore. They're looking at it as something that is an investment. So if you're serious about standing out, I'm really grateful that you are here. Again, there is going to be homework. I do encourage you to do it. Our style here at Clickvoyant is to show how we do it and for you to do. Just like watch and then do is the best way to get Google Analytics into your muscle memory. So, why am I the best person to tell you about this? For those of you who don't know me on here, I've been making it rain for decades at JWT, Omnicom agencies, like making it rain for like Nissan, Peanuts, Nutella, and even a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And now we run this analytics AI called Clickvoyant, and because we are automating statistical research on the behavior. You'll find that the way we do analytics here, and a lot of the philosophies around how to implement GA4, is going to be centered around a particular philosophy, and that is customer empathy equals dollars. We are not going to be using Google Analytics for only for building dashboards or only for counting how many leads did I send, how many transactions, how much revenue did I send. We're deeply investigating in anthropologic detail why customers do or don't do a specific thing, particularly related to buying stuff. So that said, let's dive in. I'm going to add this. This is the course materials and the syllabus, so a little housekeeping. Let me throw that into the chat. In that course syllabus, you can see that there are some materials that you'll need for day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4. Today, we are going to take a look at implementations and the difference, like a couple case studies on implementation. Before we begin, does anybody want to put in the chat like what kind of agency you are? Do you call yourself like whatever you would call yourself? We're performance marketing. We're a UX agency. We're a paid media shop. Some of you are code studios. I know Atika is actually an analytics agency. So it would help me understand a little bit more about like where you're coming from so that I could start tailoring a little bit of the story to you in particular. And, you know, engagement is my medicine, everybody. So feel free to turn on your cameras. Like, you will have homework. I do love to answer questions and have this be more interactive. Thank you, Dorn. Appreciate you being available to us. Awesome. Okay. Killer, killer. All right. So let's get started about the differences. Google Analytics 4, you may have heard, is an unstructured data set. It is event based. And what that means is usually Google Analytics, like, think of it as like a model home, Google Analytics 3. The thing that we've known and loved for 15 years, maybe more, was something that you could just walk into. You could, turn on the lights, the faucets work. Maybe it's a little bland, maybe it's a little vanilla, it's not exactly to your liking, but everything works. And you could just go in there and get your conversion rates. Um, Google Analytics 4, by contrast, in an unstructured data set, is like a house taken down to the studs. The benefits of that is you could have it exactly as you like it. The world is your oyster. Whatever you want, whatever limitations that you ever ran into in GA3, doors are open in GA4. However, that means that you're going to have to architect it. You're going to need the plumber, you're going to need the carpenter, you're going to need everything built, and you're going to need a plan. And in essence, that means that there's a lot that's mess upable in GA4 if you don't do it right. So why would Google even do this to you? There are a few reasons, some related to privacy, but the one reason that you should remember, if you remember nothing else today, is that Google Analytics 4 is built for AI and machine learning. The AI era does not necessarily have time for dashboards. We just need to know what we need to know in the moment of acting. We need fearless decision making, and we need the AI to tell us what to do. Show of hands, who's used ChatGPT? Right? You don't, who uses ChatGPT more than they use Google search? Because I don't want to go through all of the SERPs. I don't necessarily want to go through the list of everything it's in Google search page. I just want to know the thing that I want to know. And ChatGPT gives it to me nicely, nice and tidy. What is a conversion event? Boom, 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 5 bullets. Sick. I know it now. That's where analytics is going. You know what? I don't need to know. Maybe I don't really need to know these charts anymore, right? Maybe I don't need that. What I need to know is who's converting, why they're not, who's signing up for the newsletter, why aren't they? And who are the audiences that I need to retarget? So that is the promise of this new GA4 architecture: deeper, meaningful data that can be put into an AI to learn more about what customers and prospects prefer. But garbage in, garbage out. So that's something to remember when you're looking at GA4 user interface. The other thing to know, particularly, have one thing stick in your mind in GA4: the parameters are everything. Um, you know, when you're saying this is an event-based model, it's not session-based anymore, Google will automatically click a bunch of stuff, or collect a bunch of stuff. It's like user engagement, page view, click, first visit, first session, and all of that is a count. That is a count. That is a what we call an analytic, a metric. But you don't have anything really descriptive about what that is. So if you've logged into this interface before, you can see these kinds of things like, okay, I'm in my event report and I could see counts and amounts. Scroll, page view, user engagement, session start. Helpful? Did anybody look at this and go, oh yeah, I get it about my business? Probably not, right? What do you want to know about this user engagement? Anybody? I'm going to start calling on y'all. What was it? What was that user engagement? And you might click in there. Your instinct might be to click in there. Okay, well, I just don't really have like anything here, just this trends, where they came from, what was the user engagement? And that is where the parameter comes in. You could start adding these parameters for, what start to name the things that the events that we're collecting. Now, that let me show you an example of what that could look like. You need to pass the parameters back into Google Analytics to be able to for it to be able to register. Um, Here's one example. We're going to take a look at Kindtail. Kindtail makes sorry, just checking the comments here. Con Kindtail makes pet crates. Um, Really cute store. This is one of our friendlies who are allowing us to show this. And I could see that they've got like, okay, this is a Shopify store. I'm on a product detail page view. Now we're going to look at the analytics. This is in your homework, by the way, to download this analytics debugger. I'm going to see the types of data that was being collected here. So on the homepage of kindtail.com, I'm looking at the GA4 data and I'm looking to see, okay, I see 2 accounts and I see a page view event. There are some parameters that are available automatically. You could see here under shared parameters. This is what is coming with the Google Analytics out of the box. But I do see other things that are not coming in. I don't see anything related to this particular page view event. On the page view of, oops, sorry, we were on the home page. Oh gosh. Let's go look at what this is the homepage data. I'm looking at the medium pod product. Now I can see that there is now a view item here. Now I've got some e-commerce event parameters that are populated there by Shopify. I also see some e-commerce data here that is also populated by Shopify. What is the name of the item? What is the brand? What is the price? What is the item variant? So a lot of these, the ecom parameters, this is a great question. Gary, the ecom parameters, the syntax is relative to GA4, but it is not out of the box with the tag. You actually have to, this is actually a Shopify integration. Shopify will do a few things, including item view and adds to cart. And you can see that directly in the Shopify theme interface. But here's some things that Shopify will not do. Let's go back onto Kindtail homepage, and I could see that there's actually some product impressions here. Here's some like, bestsellers. You'll notice that on that homepage, I do not have a view item list, which is usually the metric that you would get for a product impression. So it is not here. In addition, I do see a quick view. So let's take a look at that product quick view. And here it is. I can add something to cart. Or actually, I thought that you would be able to add to cart. I can't see it here. But also on this page, when the quick view is open, I don't see a view item. So there is not a lot that is out of the box in e-commerce. So a lot of this has to be coordinated with a developer to be able to ensure that this company gets all of the product shopping in anthropologic detail. So all that is to say, like, when you're looking at customers or prospects' websites, there are opportunities here to share with them what they can improve upon. So debugging, doing like an audit is a great way as a lead gen for agencies. Let's go back to, let me just make sure I'm hitting all my talking points because there's so much to cover here. So yeah, so parameters are the things that you need to add with the metrics. You need to do a few things. Like one, looking for event parameters to find the detail of clicking around. The other thing is taking a look at the event debugger to see what is being collected and what is not being collected. So the what we would be doing with Kindtail if we were to submit the proposal is to say, okay, you've got all of these things here that are not tracking. Here is a base implementation guide for how to do it. So you actually have this base implementation guide available to you. It's in the course documents. You could take this. It is basically how we would track every damn thing on the site. So here's your custom events for your global components, forms, user variables, chatbots, modals, search. This is available to you. You could just hand that over to developers and say, developers, make sure you've implemented this data layer for every one of our customers, or pitch it to your customers to enhance their GA4 tracking. For e-commerce, again, one caveat I always say, like most e-commerce platforms have some kind of integration, so double check. You don't necessarily need every one of these, but this is how we would send the syntax over. Know that the syntax for e-commerce is specific to GA4. If you don't send it via these, view underscore item, that data is not getting into GA4 monetization reports. So e-commerce is specific to GA4. These types of things, chatbots are not. You can implement this any way you want to, but the way that we recommend is doing it via object. So this is the tracking schema, which you also have access to. What we recommend always is object underscore action. So there's a lot of different ways to be, because you can name this however you want to name it. It can get very messy from client to client. But if you're scaling your clients with things that we've seen most agencies do, and this is like, Dentsu, Cardinal Path, that's the same company now. But they're doing object underscore action. So you could see here what we have, like form underscore submit, form underscore start, social underscore interact, chat underscore open. And we're getting into the weeds a little bit here about data architecture, and I'm going to tell you why this is important. When we are looking at our site, your homework this evening will be to take a look at the user experience and see, are we tracking everything that we have built for a user to interact with? This is not the typical way to track Google Analytics for. What most companies do is like, oh, let's just put in the KPIs. Not our fault. Like that's kind of what we've been doing for the last 15 years. Put in the KPIs. But when you have all of this stuff, all of the components, all of the parameters tracked, you can do some pretty amazing things with that data. And are you going to put it into a dashboard? Probably not. I would recommend not to, but the data will be available to you when somebody needs to do that research. The base implementation guide, Dorn, is right here under your course materials for core data layer guide. All right, you're on it, Joe?
Yep.
Keller.
Reposted just in case anyone missed it. Yep, it's right there.
The other thing that is available to you is the GA4 audit and tagging schema. So you can begin with the UX audit, just filled out a lot of these components here that are already, that we are pretty common. But you might find other things on your site that are user experience components that are not tagged. What you'll then do is say like, okay, I usually throw the URL in here, and then you could write your comments for if it is, if like this is like, is it here? Is it tracked or not? Where's the URL? That's the first step, is to do the accounting of what is available on my site, and then seeing what's tracking. Now, when you get into what you're going to use this base UX audit to start to figure out, how do I want to architect Google Analytics for, and what event and parameter should be associated to that thing. So after that, the next step is to get into a tracking schema. And we're going to get into this even deeper tomorrow. But when you say, okay, upon navigation click, what I need, here's my description of a horizontal navigation click. How are we going to trigger it? It's based off a custom data layer event. And these are the parameters. I want the event category to be navigation. I want the navigation underscore type to be the subnab, the mobile, the footer, and I want the click text. Now, you might want to add even other things on that navigation click. Again, the world is your oyster in GA4, and however many creative ways you could think that you would want to know. Usually, if you can do this in combination with a UX person and also a paid media person, now you're going to get into really interesting things that you're going to do with custom parameters. Custom parameters actually have a 25 parameter limit. Um, Gone are the days of having to say, I only need category action label. It was really limited to be able to do that. I've seen, in this, not only are we in the AI era, we're also in the video era. So if you had only category action label to send with a video event, you'd have to do something like video, video play, video title. And that's really limiting, especially when your videos are 2, 3 minutes long. Now what we do is like video, video threshold, video content, video speaker, video length to see how many people got. You could add lots of different parameters to that kind of event now. So let's see a potential example of how companies are using parameters. We're going to use analytics. Watch length is a great one too, Doran. Thank you. Um, we're going to take a look at a couple different implementations in Yale versus Harvard. Now, I know that this is not e-commerce, ClickPoint usually focus on e-commerce, but maybe if some of you are doing lead gen, that this will inspire you to do something new. I'm going to take a look at Yale's financial aid page. Yale and Harvard, both prestigious universities, very expensive. We could look at Princeton's too, Dorn. But let's take a look. Like I'm a student. I'm a prospective student. Let's get into some empathetic moments here. I'm a prospective student. I'm trying to figure out how to pay for this very expensive school. I'm looking at Yale, and let's just kind of go through this. Important information for the fall term. This looks like administrative stuff. College boards open. Note that there's a lot of copy. I don't know how your teenagers behave, but mine would probably bounce right away. I've seen like what Yale's financial aid means for your family. There's like a cost estimate calculator, and then there's another cost estimate calculator. Which one do I pick? And then how to submit financial aid documents. Okay. Now let's take a look at Harvard's financial aid page. So really different, really different. I've got, let's say, just go back again one time and I say, I've got this little small, make your dream of Yale a reality with some chicks with something and screwdrivers. Here, I'm getting kind of a feeling of being in the classroom. I'm getting a sense of what it feels like to participate. In addition, I've got, here's all the things I need to know on this page. On this page, how it works, step price calculator, apply for financial aid. Okay, easy, quick links. I got some FAQs right here. And how does it work? One net price calculator, how to use it, like how affordable will Harvard be for your family? See for yourself. Even the language, really different. Does anybody have any other comments about this and how it is different? Man, I'm definitely calling on you guys. Okay, so let's take a look at their implementation.
It's a quiet Monday. Yeah.
It is a quiet Monday. Dang. All right, everybody.
We'll just assume everyone's taking really good notes.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
We
take a
love
look
you
at
guys. Just want to say we're all here. It's just a little slow, but we got it.
Thank you,
Monday
Carrie.
morning problems.
Got you.
Gary said he'd imagine on mobile it's even more pronounced.
Probably. And especially like, you think if you're talking about an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, right? All right. So I'm looking at Harvard's implementation. I see I get a page view here. I'm going down. I don't see any scroll data. On that page view, no event. There's one event parameter saying anonymize the IP address, no e-commerce data. That's not a surprise, but and then there's the out of the box. These are out of the box, Gary. That's all you get. Um, so not a lot going on. If I even, click to this cost calculator, let's see what's happening in that data. So I'm looking back at this page to see if I had a click. Nope, no click event. All right, let's take a look at Harvard's. I'm using Analytics Debugger, and I'm going to refresh the page to see what they collect. So here's my GA4, and okay. So on page view, I get a content category. I get a content type, landing page. I get a content primary audience perspective current. Um, if I click over to how financial aid works, let's see what happens there. I'm just down to this area. Oh, content module click. Yeah, Dorn, go pitch Yale. Absolutely. Look, I clicked on the content module. What did I click on? I clicked on financial aid. I clicked on how financial aid works, prospective current content module, clicked on this page. If I get into here, I can see what else is on here. Is financial aid available to foreign students? I'm opening that accordion. Oh, accordion click. So now I can see all of these things. Like you're now I'm how you can see how this accordion click has gone beyond the event category action label. They've found 5 things that they want to know about that. And do you think that there is any coincidence that Harvard collects more data on their user experience than Yale, and Harvard's user experience blows Yale's out of the water? There isn't. It is intentional. This is what data-driven empathy looks like. And so when you start to look at any of your, e-commerce stores, like things that are out of the box for GA, things that are out of the box for like Shopify or other plugins or HubSpot integrations, they're only doing the base level implementation, which is KPI measurement. And you want all of this and now all of this data to go into GA4 so that you could benefit from the AI, whatever Google's going to be building. So here's an example of what that might look like in the wild. And no surprise, yeah, it's Clickvoyant. Clickvoyant is a pretty hot shit AI out there, I have to admit. What we do is take all of that data into our systems and we look for, we create these automated statistical models to then say, these are the things that are leading to conversion rates without having to hire somebody. You have to compete in like, you have to either compete for an analyst to do this kind of thing at $100,000 salary, or you already have analysts in house. And guess what? I was that person and I was bogged down. I could not get my team to be on every client because it just wasn't humanly possible. But that is what AI is intended to do. So like let's see an example of what you could get when you like automate this kind of stuff. Um, this is a an event correlation that's happening for things that are happening on pages. Okay, we're talking about a store. What on this what page and events are correlated to a transaction? So think about this if you're a lead gen, think about it in lead gen. What of the FAQs in Harvard is correlated to them filling out an application on which pages? It would take you forever to figure that out. It would take you a very long time. If you had an analyst, it would take that analyst a very long time to do that analysis. Here, we can see that this is done. Navigation click to our story on this product page has a high correlation to a transaction. Here we're like, oh, what if you knew the mathematical relationship between being on that page, clicking that thing, and actually doing the conversion. What would your client say to you? They'd be pretty damn happy. I'll say that, because this kind of analysis takes many hours, and you would have to have an analyst and a retainer of at least 20 hours a month to maybe do this for them in 1 month. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to get into selling. We're going to get into operations in the next few days, but just to show you, why would you want all of that data? Why would you go through the headache of trying to get developers to get that right? It's because that's pointing to the way in anthropologic detail what is going to help this company succeed, what's going to help you deepen your relationship with your customers. Okay, coming in on the home stretch. So parameters, we talked about event parameters, we've talked about like why you talk about the implementation. You're going to need a combination of base implementation guide plus, oh, by the way, hopefully you're all using Google Tag Manager. Does everybody, can you just raise a hand just to make sure I don't have to cover this? Thank you. Gotcha. Okay, Dexia, you're on it. Tasha, you're on it. All right, I'm just going to very briefly, okay, Amy, you guys got this. Word, I'm going to move on. Okay, sometimes we never know. Sometimes we get like real, if somebody wants me to talk about it, just maybe we should do it that way. Who wants to know what Google Tag Manager is? Everybody's got it? Hello. Okay.
Looks like we're good.
So the cool thing about Google Tag Manager, if you remember in the days of GA3, you would like set the tags, we throw them all in there, and it would like Google Tag Manager would send the data to our model home, and the model home would know exactly where to put everything. Not the case anymore. Okay, wait, Dacia, are you raising your hand because you want me to talk about Google Tag Manager real quick? Or Dania?
Hi, no, that's okay. I was raising my hand because we use Google Tag Manager.
You got it.
I personally do not, but we have someone on our team who sets that up for us.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, so again, like Google Tag Manager was pretty killer. You put your tags and it was just going exactly where it needed to go. Now Google Analytics has to have you set up the catcher's mitt, actually. So that data, once you submit it in Google Analytics, in Google Tag Manager, and it's firing and you can see it in the browser and all the variables and all the parameters are there, doesn't show up inside GA4 unless you architect it. And that is a pain. Oh, yes, no, not Greenwich Mean Time, Google Tag Manager. Yeah. And, the other part of the administration is pretty important. I mean, a lot of people have set like companies, sometimes you see they like sort of, oh, well, where are all of our tags going? And the truth is it doesn't go anywhere. It just fires in the browser. Google doesn't know where to put it. So we've got in your syllabus, there's also the GA4 administration checklist inside this GA4 audit and tagging schema. Please copy it, make it your own, start checking these boxes as soon as possible for as many clients as you possibly can. First thing that I want to talk about is this public service announcement. If you did not opt out of Google Analytics 3 automatic migration, Google is in there right now changing your tags. And this happened to us last week. We said, oh, yeah, we were cleaning up Google Analytics implementation for one company. And then all of a sudden, like, we have all these changes in our GA4 account by system admin. And that is Google, going in and taking all of the dirty stuff that you had in GA3 and piping it over. Why? Because of this. I think that this is where that 82%, I actually think a lot of these are auto migrations. And what is happening with that, it is not getting it right. Those tags that are being auto migrated from your GA3 account into GA4, they're very messy and they're often wrong. So if there's one thing you do today, right after you get off this call, is to go disconnect. And then these are the, if you didn't opt out in time, these are the instructions. Know that this is actually, you can follow me on TikTok for Google tips, but there was one bit of information on that auto migration that said, we strongly recommend you manually migrate to ensure the quality of your data. I had to pull this out from my TikTok because they took it down from their website. And I don't know if it's because it's better, but from what I've seen, it's not. So go do that. Okay. Next, when I go through this training guide, so check off, so you've disconnected your GA3 account from your GA4 account. Extend the data retention from the default 2 months to the maximum 14 months. It only defaults to 2 months of user data. If you have companies like, I mean, first of all, for advertising purposes, for retargeting, you're definitely going to want 14 months. I honestly don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to extend, especially when all you have to do is go in here and click this. So the way that this works is there is an instruction, there is a toggle box when you've done that, and then there are some screenshots down here for how to go about that and where to do it. So you can go give this to, a VA, you could go give this to, whoever. It's pretty easy to do, and you don't need to get billable resources to do it, expensive billable resources to do it. Turning on Google Signals. Turning on Google Signals ensures that you will be able to get more demographic information, and you can create audiences from that, which we'll get into. Link your Google Ads account. That's a no-brainer. Make sure you're collecting those custom dimensions and event parameters. So when you go into this area right here, if you go into your collect custom dimensions, oh, this screenshot might be too little, and you see that there are no custom dimensions, you're probably in a situation with your client where they don't have any information, no parameters passing, or they set up the parameters, but they didn't set up the catcher's mitt. So you'll hear me talk about parameters and dimensions. It's the same thing. Dimensions is what you set up inside Google Analytics. Parameters are what you send via the browser in Tag Manager. Let me know if that doesn't make any sense. Just know it's the thrower and the catcher's mitt. Turn on enhanced tracking. I do recommend this. Because that's one thing that Google Analytics 4 gave us. There is a component in here where you could just turn on the magic button, and all these other things that you used to have to tag outright or individually were like, downloads, video views. Now you don't have to tag it. You just click this toggle, and that's awesome. However, do not do forms. The form event tracking is very broken in Google Analytics 4. It will also send a form submit, even if, say, for example, somebody made an error and it did not submit. So you've seen this a lot. Like, okay, I'm creating a form and I'm making a new password, and the password didn't meet the password requirements. So when I hit submit, it says, oh, change your password, and then we'll submit the form. Google will recognize that as a form submit, and that will inflate your conversion rate. So that's another gotcha. Creating audience segments. So if those of you are familiar, who use audience, who use segmentation tools inside GA3? Raise your hands. Great way to use segmentation tools for retargeting, analysis, getting it into reports. Segments are gone in GA4, or at least in the capacity that you remember them. You can analyze a segment and you can create a segment inside the GA4 interface, but you can't get that data out into Google Ads. To get the data out to Google Ads or to Looker or dashboards, you have to create an audience. And so that's these instructions here. Now, the other thing about GA3 was all of those segments / audiences now in GA4 were out of the box. It had mobile, return, desktop. There is nothing in there. So if you don't have an audience set up right now, there is nothing in there. Well, there are two things: all and purchasers. Kind of helpful, but not as much as the old one was. So you have to go in there. So we say, okay, oops, we suggest starting with mobile, desktop, return users, new users, and users who abandoned cart. ClickFluent works primarily with e-commerce companies. So that's what we would suggest, but you can abandon a form. Um, so create these audience segments. They're only live from the day that you create them. And it's the only way to get the data into Google Ads or into a Looker Studio dashboard. And then these two kind of advanced things, and depending on where you're at, there is a interesting like switching report identity to device based. So one of the things that Google Analytics 4 says that they can do is to say, okay, I'm going to change my identity to a device instead of the sort of blended attribution analysis that they currently have. Um, you would only want to do this if you were building paid media campaigns. It's just really a way to research the two different methods for attribution. Attribution in GA4 is going to be a pain. Um, I say that because like when you start to detect tags in the browser, you'll notice that GA4 tags fire pretty slowly. And so there are some critical, like you could see the GA4 instance was found waiting for hits. There's some paid media pain there. And so that's why I suggest just playing with that device-based. Oh, where did it go? Playing with that device-based just to see if you could get fewer unknowns or better attribution. But again, it is an advanced practice. The one thing that you can do actually though is when you change that inside the report, it's not doing it to the base level data. It's only doing it in the user experience of GA. So that means you're not messing anything up. You can go switch back and forth and check it out without ruining the base level data. So that's one cool thing. Does everybody understand what I mean by that? Okay, I'm going to move on. Now, linking to BigQuery. Um, I highly recommend this. It will require somebody who is at least conversant in data science to be able to connect your data. So BigQuery used to only be available to Google Analytics 360 customers. Now it's available to everybody. Um, there is a cost associated to storing your data in BigQuery. However, December this year, Google is going to shut down the historical data of Google Analytics 3. And if you don't know what to do with that data or how you're going to use the historical data over time, we highly recommend throwing that data into BigQuery and minimally throwing your old KPIs into Google Sheets. That's a pain in the ass. Connecting to BigQuery is a little bit easier. There is a storage component, and when you want to get the data out, there is a cost component to querying the data. But it's at least like a great way to just kind of save it in case. All right. So I think like let me make sure. So that is it for the administration checklist. Homework. Homework tonight. One, you're going to download the analytics debugger. You'll recognize it by the rubber duck with the mohawk. Then you're going to identify, you're going to use how I've used it here in Kindtail. By the way, a lot of people get stopped up at this, when you download the analytics debugger, you'll see that it shows up inside here, but there's no, it's like, for example, like if I want to make a Loom video and I click on there, then a Loom thing will pop up in my browser. What happens when you have analytics debugger is it actually shows up in your developer console. So you'll have to find it by looking at view, developer, developer tools. Oh, that one just shut it down, but I'm going to quick key my way back. And then it will be here in Analytics Debugger. Start debugging, and that's where you're going to find your GA4 data. And you can also see, for bonus points for some of you, what's firing in the Google Tag Manager container. So the homework is identify 3 opportunities to improve an implementation of a website you own and begin the UX feature account audit. Most people will find that there are a lot of things inside the UX of the site that are not being tracked. or at least not being tracked in something beyond category action label capacity. Now, if you've implemented GA4 with category action label, we did, don't worry, because when you go from like America to Paris, you have to go from speaking English to speaking French. Sometimes you just have to speak English for a little while before you can speak the new language, or you translate in your mind in English. That's why when we speak Romance language, our grammar's terrible. But to start speaking in the Google Analytics 4 language, you have to start going beyond category action label and start thinking about all these things, thinking about Harvard, getting inspired by what they do. We're going to look at more case studies tomorrow, especially for like e-commerce. And then we're going to talk about how to sell that into clients. Like, why is that a good investment and a good amount of their time? And the reality is it's always competition. You could see how Yale and Harvard's pages communicate to their customers. Competition is what gets clients to move off their ass usually. And so that's the kind of thing that we start to like look for. Oh, look at the implementation of your competitor. What do they know that's an unfair advantage to them? What could be your unfair advantage? So we're going to look at a couple more data architectures tomorrow, and then talk about getting into selling it and what our exact plays are. Here's how we pitch it. Here's how we talk about it. This is who we target. That's coming tomorrow. You guys are too quiet. All right. Any questions about today?
Questions, feedback. Good overview. Thanks, Gary.
Tomorrow's meeting on our calendars, because I don't see it yet. Was the invite sent already?
There's a way on the initial registration, you can click to add it, but I'll be sure to send it. So on the initial invite, if you go back, it'll say add to your calendar, whether that's Google, Apple. I think they even offer.
I see it. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely. And I'll send a reminder out like I did today. Unfortunately, with Zoom, with that update, because this isn't a webinar, when you click on the link, it does make you re-register, but I tend to send it out right beforehand just in case people lost it. You can re-register with the link I send out. But we found out last time that people end up with that link. It doesn't just let you join, because this one you have to register for. So, and then someone said, can you repeat the note about the pitcher versus the catcher's mitt? Which is which? Yeah, exactly. So Google Tag Manager is the pitcher. It's sending the data out, but you got to catch it inside GA4 admin panel. That's what's new about GA4. So it's a lot more work in setting it up. All right, everybody. Well, we're going to let you go 5 minutes early. Tomorrow, we're commenting on other data architectures. I'm going to ask some of you questions, so be ready. You don't have to be on camera. Be ready.
Thank you.
And I will be sending out the recording.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll be honest, it's been such a Monday for me, and I had a really tough weekend, but this was really helpful, and I do appreciate it. I'll be more engaged tomorrow, I promise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.